My fiancée demanded a one-sided prenup and tried to ruin my life. Now, I on-sailed the wedding and cut her off. I'm 32, male, and up until a few months ago, I was engaged to my girlfriend of 4 years. We'll call her Jay. We met through mutual friends, hit it off, and everything just fell into place. She was smart, funny, and independent. At least that's what I thought. She had this drive, this ambition, and I liked that about her. We talked about the future, marriage, kids, all the usual stuff, and I figured she was the one. Things were going fine until about 6 months before the wedding. One night over dinner, Jay brought up the idea of a prenup. At first, I wasn't surprised. I mean, it's 2024, prenups are a thing now, right? Plus, I come from a more secure financial background. I work in tech, and I've done well for myself. Investments, savings, you name it. Jay works in the creative field, which is great, but she didn't have much saved up. I assumed she wanted something that'd protect both of us. Seemed logical, but that's when shit started to get weird. She wanted the prenup to only protect her. And I'm not just talking about keeping what we had before the marriage. She wanted to lock down everything we'd earned during the marriage. Specifically, everything I earned would essentially belong to her if we ever split up. She kept talking about how she'd be the primary caregiver once we had kids, and how she needed to be compensated for all the sacrifices she'd make. Basically, she wanted to make sure she got a fat chunk of my money if things didn't work out. She even threw in some insane alimony clause, even if she was the one who left. I was speechless. This wasn't just about protecting her or making sure she had something to fall back on. This was about her trying to secure a way out before we were even married, just in case it didn't go her way. I told her flat out it didn't feel right. I said I'd consider a fair prenup that protected us both. But what she was asking for? No way. That's when the gaslighting started. She flipped it on me, saying I didn't care about her or her financial security. She accused me of being selfish, only thinking about my money. She pulled the whole, "if you love me, you'll understand" card. It was manipulation 101, but at the time I didn't see it that clearly. I told her I needed time to think. I wasn't going to jump into something that felt so wrong. Over the next few days, I spoke to a lawyer to get his take on what Jay was asking. The dude was shocked. He said straight up, "This isn't a prenup. This is a financial noose around your neck." The way she had worded it, I'd basically be handing her my life on a silver platter if we ever divorced. Even if she was the one to bail, it was that bad. So, I went back to her and told her we needed to talk. I suggested we rethink the terms and make it fair. That's when she really started to lose it. She accused me of already planning to divorce her, that I wasn't committed to the relationship. She said all these wild things, like how I might leave her for someone younger or screw her over down the line. None of it made sense, but she was getting more and more irrational. It got to the point where every conversation turned into a fight. She started threatening to call off the wedding unless I signed the prenup. It was clear this wasn't about protecting herself anymore. She wanted control. She wanted to make sure she'd come out ahead, no matter what happened. It was all about securing her future at my expense. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, she went behind my back. She went to my family. Somehow she convinced my mom that I was being unreasonable, that I didn't care about her. My mom always wanted to keep the peace, started pushing me to just sign the damn thing to make Jay happy. She kept saying stuff like, if it's going to make her feel secure, why not? You love her, don't you? But my dad, he wasn't buying any of it. He's a no-nonsense kind of guy, and when I showed him the prenup, he told me straight, "This is a scam, don't sign a damn thing." That's when I realized just how deep Jay's manipulation went. She wasn't just trying to twist my arm. She was getting other people to do it for her. And it wasn't just my family. She started dropping little comments to our friends, too. She'd tell them how I was dragging my feet about the wedding, how I had commitment issues. She made me look like the bad guy while playing the innocent victim in all this. The last straw came 2 weeks before the wedding. We were in the kitchen, going over final details, and she just casually mentioned that she'd set up a meeting with a notary to sign the prenup. No discussion, no asking if I was cool with it. She just assumed I'd cave and sign her one-sided document like it was a done deal. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a prenup anymore. This was about control. She was manipulating me, using guilt, pressure from family, public perception, everything she could to get her way. And I'd had enough. So I did what I never thought I'd have to do. I called off the wedding. When I told her, she lost it. At first, she looked shocked, like she couldn't believe I was serious. Then the rage kicked in. She accused me of humiliating her, of ruining her life. She said I was wasting her time, and that I'd never find anyone who'd love me like she did. She screamed, called me every name in the book, and finally stormed out of my apartment, slamming the door behind her. I thought that would be the end of it, but of course it wasn't. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of texts and missed calls from mutual friends. Turns out, Jay had already started spreading rumors. She told people I'd gotten cold feet because I was secretly seeing someone else. She never outright accused me of cheating. She was too slick for that. But she implied it enough that people started questioning me. I had friends texting me, saying they were disappointed in me, asking me what really happened. She knew exactly how to make me look like the bad guy, without even getting her hands dirty. At first, I ignored it. I figured people would eventually see through the lies. But she didn't stop there. A couple of days later, she showed up at my place, completely unannounced. She was all calm and sweet, trying to act like she wanted to make things right. She said she'd been thinking it over and was willing to give me one last chance to fix everything. The catch: I had to sign the prenup. If I did, we could still get married, and she'd make sure no one ever found out the real reason behind the breakup. She said she'd been telling people that I had commitment issues and was unstable leading up to the wedding, but if I just signed, she'd clear it all up. I shut that shit down immediately. I told her flat out that nothing was going to change my mind. I wasn't going to sign the prenup, and I damn sure wasn't going to let her manipulate me into taking her back. That's when she flipped. Again, she called me selfish, vindictive, said I'd ruined her life. She even threatened to sue me for the wedding expenses, which was hilarious because I had paid for most of it myself. But it didn't stop there. Jay wasn't done playing games. She went after my job next. She knew a couple of people from my office. We'd all gone out for drinks a few times, so she decided to get them involved. She called one of my coworkers and fed them some bullshit story about how I'd emotionally abused her throughout our relationship. She claimed I was unstable and unreliable, and that my coworkers should watch out for me. I got called into HR the next day to explain the situation. Thankfully, my workplace didn't buy into her lies, but it was a low blow that showed just how far she was willing to go to ruin my life. And yet, she still wasn't done. A week after the wedding date that never happened, I got a letter from a lawyer. Jay was demanding compensation for emotional distress. She claimed that canceling the wedding at the last minute had caused her public embarrassment and psychological trauma. She wanted me to pay for her wedding dress, the bridal party expenses, and a bunch of other ridiculous stuff. She was asking for tens of thousands of dollars. I couldn't believe it. I sent the letter to my lawyer, who basically laughed in her face. He told me she didn't have a case, and that was the end of that. But still, it was just another desperate attempt to get what she wanted. In the end, I didn't give in. I didn't let her lies, her manipulation, or her entitlement get to me. It was tough, but I knew deep down I had made the right decision. If she was willing to go to these lengths to try and control me before the wedding, I can't even imagine what married life would have been like. The weeks after were tough, dealing with the fallout, the whispers, and the constant questions from people who had no idea what had really gone down. Jay had done such a good job twisting the narrative that even some of my closest friends were unsure what to believe. I cut ties with anyone who seemed to take her side without even asking me for the truth. It wasn't easy, but I had no choice. I wasn't going to waste time defending myself to people who were more interested in gossip than reality. But honestly, after everything, I felt like I could breathe again. Yeah, it was messy, and yeah, it hurt to see someone I cared about turn into a manipulative monster, but I dodged a bullet. If I had caved to her pressure and signed that prenup, or worse, gone through with the wedding, my life would have been a nightmare. She would have tried to control me, squeeze every dime out of me, and probably tried to divorce me as soon as she got bored. The craziest part? After all that drama, after she tried to destroy my reputation, mess with my job, and drain my bank account, she still tried to reach out a few months later. I guess when her plan to get me to pay up didn't work, she thought she could somehow charm her way back in. She sent me this long, overly sweet email about how she missed me, how she realized she had overreacted, and how we could move past this. She even tried to dangle the idea of getting back together, saying we could start fresh without any prenup this time. I didn't even bother responding. That chapter of my life was done. Looking back, I realized just how close I was to throwing my life away for someone who didn't care about me, only what I could give her. I learned a hard lesson. Love doesn't come with terms and conditions. And if someone is willing to use manipulation, guilt, or entitlement to get what they want, they're not worth your time. So yeah, that's my story. If you're ever in a situation where someone is trying to back you into a corner like that, don't budge. Trust your gut, stand your ground, and remember, you're worth more than what someone else is trying to take from you. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. So please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one. My fiancée demanded half my business as a wedding gift. So, I called off the wedding on the spot. I, 33M, run a small but thriving tech consulting firm I started from scratch. For years, I poured my heart into it, late nights, personal sacrifices, no vacations to build something stable. Now I was engaged, set to marry a woman I believed understood hard work. We'd known each other for 2 years, and at first, I admired her ambition and style. I thought we shared the same values. But I discovered too late how wrong I was. About 3 months before the wedding, while finalizing guest lists and sorting through vendor contracts, my fiancée brought up something odd. We were sitting at the kitchen table, going over flower arrangements, when she said casually, "My parents have been so supportive of our relationship. Don't you think we should thank them more substantially?" I looked up confused. We already invited them on that trip last month, and I bought them a nice anniversary gift. What do you mean, more substantially? She leaned forward, tapping her perfectly manicured nails on the table. I'm talking about the business. Maybe you could give them a small share. It would be a lovely gesture. I blinked, stunned. A share? Of my company? Why would I do that? Her expression tightened. Their family, soon to be your family too. This would show you trust them and appreciate their role in our lives. She said it like it was the most reasonable request in the world. I try to stay calm. I built this company alone. Your parents had no part in it. They never invested, never offered any business help. She shrugged dismissively. They don't need to help. It's about respect. They've always dreamed of being part of something successful. It's a wedding gift from you to them. I realized then her sense of entitlement ran deeper than I ever imagined. Shocked, I said, "This isn't normal. People don't just hand over shares of their business as wedding gifts. That's a huge deal. It has legal implications." Her smile vanished. "So you're refusing?" She tilted her head, eyes narrowing. "Think carefully. We're about to start a new life together. Don't you want harmony?" My stomach nodded. This was blackmail hidden behind a sweet tone. "I'm sorry," I said firmly. "No shares. I'll be generous in other ways, but not this." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "If you truly cared about me, you'd do it. My parents deserve this. They raised me, supported me. Now you can show your gratitude." She stressed the word gratitude like I owed them something. I stood my ground. They deserve respect, not a cut of my livelihood. This is my business, my hard work. I won't give it away. She rose from her chair, eyes flashing. "If you won't do this for me, what good is this marriage? I can't believe how selfish you are." At that moment, I realized just how toxic her demands were. She valued my business as a bargaining chip, not respecting my sweat and sacrifice. I knew this wouldn't end here. I braced myself for the battle ahead. Over the following days, tension soared. She stopped discussing wedding details and instead bombarded me with guilt trips. "My parents are excited about our future. Don't you want them to feel included?" Or do you really love me if you can't do this one thing? I tried to reason with her, suggesting alternatives. Generous gifts, a beautiful family vacation. But she wouldn't hear it. The only gift that mattered in her eyes was a steak in my company. One evening, after a strained dinner, she dropped a bomb. If you refuse to give my parents a share, I might have to reconsider marrying you. Her voice was icy, her gaze a challenge. My heart clenched. She was threatening to end our engagement over this absurd demand. Was I engaged to a partner or a ruthless dealmaker? I took a deep breath. Are you serious? We're weeks from the wedding, and you'd throw it all away because I won't sign over part of my business? She crossed her arms. You talk about love, but you're not willing to sacrifice. My parents deserve to benefit from your success. It's not like you can't afford it. The entitlement stunned me. This isn't about money. It's about principle, trust, and fairness. Your parents did nothing to earn a stake. Do you think I'm just a bank account for you and them? Her lips curled. If that's how you see it, maybe we shouldn't get married. Maybe I should find someone who values family more. The arrogance in her tone was unmistakable. I realized she never saw my business as mine. She viewed it as an asset she could manipulate. If she was like this now, what future would I have with her as my wife? A lifetime of demands, threats, and betrayals? I met with a lawyer friend the next morning. I explained the situation. My fiancée demanded I give part of my LLC to her parents. My lawyer's eyebrows rose. That's a huge red flag, he said. If she already made these demands, imagine what happens after marriage. Legally, transferring shares would complicate everything. If you divorce later, her parents might remain partial owners. Don't do it. I nodded, resolved to harden. I decided I wouldn't just refuse. I'd protect myself. If she ended the engagement, so be it. But I wouldn't wait for her to leave me. I'd take control. I started preparations quietly, updating legal documents, ensuring my business shares remained solely in my name, setting aside personal finances in separate accounts. The following night, she confronted me again. So, have you changed your mind? She asked, tapping her foot. I shook my head. No, I'm not giving them anything. Her eyes narrowed. Then I'm done. I can't marry someone who doesn't respect my family. She turned as if to leave the room triumphantly. But I spoke calmly. Don't bother. I've decided to call off the wedding myself. We're over. She spun around, shocked. I'd beaten her to it, refusing to be cornered. Now I would watch her face the consequences of her entitlement. She stared at me, stunned. You're ending it. Her voice wavered, as if she expected me to beg her not to go. Instead, I was the one walking away. The shift in power unsettled her. But we've planned everything, venues, invitations. You can't just back out. I laughed humorlessly. You threatened to leave if I didn't cave. Now I'm calling your bluff. I won't be blackmailed into giving away what I built. The wedding's off. Panic flickered in her eyes. She tried another angle. I was just trying to secure our future, to bring our families closer. Her voice quivered, but I saw through it. This wasn't remorse. It was desperation. We can talk this through, she pleaded. I stood firm. We've talked enough. You made your position clear. My worth to you is tied to what I can give your parents. That's not love. She tried to twist the story. You're misunderstanding. It's a cultural thing. My parents expected a gesture. I shook my head. If it was just a gesture, why threaten to break up? This was extortion, not culture. Facing that truth, her mask slipped. Fine, she hissed. I was testing your loyalty, and you failed. A test? My blood boiled. You don't test your fiancé by demanding a share of his company. That's manipulation, plain and simple. With her schemes exposed, she turned vicious. She accused me of being selfish, small-minded. You have so much, yet you won't share a tiny piece. You're greedy, she spat, voice rising. I remained calm. Greedy? I built that company alone. I owe your parents nothing. Your attempt to straw me proves who's greedy. I escorted her out of my house that night. She screamed threats. You'll regret this. I'll tell everyone you abandoned me that you're a liar. I shrugged. Tell whoever you want. I've documented your demand and threats. If you try to tarnish my reputation, I have evidence. I'd recorded some of our conversations, just in case. Legal advice suggested it was allowed since I was part of the conversation. It was insurance against her false accusations. She froze when I mentioned evidence. You recorded me? Her face went pale. She knew her words wouldn't look good to anyone. Family, friends, or a judge. The next few days were chaotic. She tried contacting my relatives, crying that I'd mistreated her. But when I forwarded them snippets of her demands, they understood my decision. Mutual friends reached out, shocked by her audacity. Some sympathized with her, but most, upon hearing the full story, sided with me. In desperation, she came back to my door, sobbing. I'm sorry. I was pressured by my parents. They wanted to share, said it was normal. I love you. Don't leave me. This sudden change of tune left me cold. If you truly loved me, you wouldn't have threatened to walk away over money. She fell to her knees, begging forgiveness, tears streaming. But it was too late. I wouldn't be her pawn. As I watched her plead, I felt no triumph, only relief. I dodged a lifetime of manipulation. I told her firmly, we're done. I won't be marrying you, and I don't trust you anymore. She tried clutching my hand, but I stepped back. Leave now, I said quietly, and don't contact me again. She retreated, sobbing, realizing her entitlements cost her everything. My trust, the wedding, her imagined future sharing my success. The finality of it weighed heavily in the silence after she left. But I felt lighter, free of a toxic bond that would have choked me eventually. Legally, I faced no major aftermath. We weren't married yet, so no common property to dispute. The business remained mine, untangled by her grasping hands. I filed a cease and desist through my lawyer, warning her not to defame me. Her parents tried calling once, asking if there was a misunderstanding. I told them the truth. Their daughter demanded a business share for them as a condition of marriage. They stuttered excuses, but I ended the call. My life, my company, my boundaries, none of it was up for debate. In the weeks that followed, I focused on my work, my team, and my own well-being. Some friends confided that she was spreading partial truths, saying I was controlling, stingy. But I had enough proof to clear my name if needed. The rumors died down when people realized she had no evidence, just bitterness. I learned a valuable lesson. Love doesn't require surrendering one's hard-earned achievements to please others. A real partner supports and respects boundaries, not tries to pry wealth out of you. I dodged a bullet by refusing her ultimatum and taking action first. Ultimately, I emerged stronger, cautious, but not bitter. I saw how quickly greed could poison a relationship. She underestimated my resolve, thinking I'd fold to keep peace. Instead, I proved that my integrity and self-respect worked for sale. No doubt, she's left regretting her move, knowing she lost a stable future by pushing too far. If she imagined herself a clever strategist, she discovered I wasn't her chess piece. Actions have consequences, and her attempt to leverage my love for her parents' gain cost her everything. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, so please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one. My fiancé's family secretly sold my house, so I kicked her out and canceled the wedding. I'm a 34-year-old guy, and a few months ago, I thought my life was pretty solid. I had a house I worked hard to buy, a fiancé I thought I loved, and a future I was genuinely excited about. Turns out, I was wrong about a lot of things, especially about the person I was planning to marry. I bought my house about 5 years ago. It's nothing huge or fancy, but it's mine. I worked overtime shifts, skipped vacations, and lived off ramen for years to save enough for it. It was a proud moment when I finally had the keys in my hand. When Jody, my fiancée, moved in 2 years ago, it felt like we were taking a big step forward. She didn't contribute to the house, financially at least, but I didn't mind. I figured I had it covered. and we split other expenses like groceries and smaller bills. Jody came from a very different background. Her family was always struggling with money. They were the type to max out credit cards and then complain about how unfair the system was. I sympathized with them at first. Everyone has their own challenges, and I figured if I could help out here and there, it wouldn't hurt. But over time, little comments started adding up. Her mom once joked about how lucky Jody was to have landed someone with a house. Her dad hinted about how great it would be to retire without a mortgage. Stuff like that. I brushed it off as harmless chatter. But looking back, I should have seen where this was going. A couple of months before everything blew up, Jody started acting weird. She was on her phone a lot, whispering during calls, and snapping at me over the smallest things. I figured it was stress from wedding planning. We were supposed to get married next summer, and I know that could be overwhelming. I didn't push her about it because I thought giving her space was the right thing to do. Then one day, I got this weird packet in the mail. It was from a real estate agency, and it had all these details about the sale of my house. At first, I thought it was some kind of scam, but then I noticed the photos. It was definitely my house, down to the furniture in the living room. There was even a proposed closing date. I didn't understand what the hell was going on, so I asked Jody about it that night. When I brought it up, her face went pale. She stammered something about exploring options for us to move into a bigger house after the wedding. She said she wanted it to be a surprise. That didn't make sense to me. If we were going to move, why wouldn't she talk to me first? It didn't sit right, so after she went to bed, I stayed up and started digging. The next day, I called the real estate agency. I pretended to be Jody's assistant and asked about the sale. What they told me made my head spin. Jody had listed the house for sale without my knowledge. Not only that, but she had already signed documents pretending to be me. She told them she was a co-owner, which was a complete lie, and had secured a cash buyer. The sale was set to close in 2 weeks. I asked why she was in such a rush to sell, and that's when the final piece of the puzzle dropped. The agent said Jody mentioned needing the money urgently to help with family obligations. I sat there in disbelief. I knew Jody's parents were in deep financial trouble. They were on the verge of losing their house. It all made sense now. She was planning to use the money from my house to pay off their mortgage. That night, I confronted her. I printed out every document I had and laid them out on the dining table. When she came home, I asked her to sit down. She looked at the papers and froze. "What's this?" "This," I said, "is proof that you tried to sell my house behind my back. You lied about being a co-owner, signed papers pretending to be me, and planned to use the money to bail out your parents. What the hell were you thinking?" She immediately started crying. I didn't know what else to do. My parents are losing their house. I couldn't just stand by and watch them end up on the street. "So your solution was to steal from me? To sell my house without even telling me?" She said, sobbing, "I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how to bring it up. I thought you'd understand once everything was settled." "You thought I'd understand? Are you out of your mind? This is fraud, Jody. Do you even realize how illegal this is?" She switched from tears to anger in a split second. "You don't understand what it's like to grow up with nothing. You have so much and my parents have nothing. You're selfish. You could have helped them and still been fine." Selfish. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I worked my ass off for this house. Your parents' financial problems aren't my responsibility. And what you did isn't just wrong. It's unforgivable. The wedding's off, and I want you out of this house. "You can't just throw me out," she screamed. "I have nowhere to go." She burst into tears. "That's not my problem anymore. You have 30 days to figure it out. And don't think for a second that I'm letting this slide legally." Her jaw dropped, and she stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. The next day, I contacted a lawyer. They confirmed that what Jody did was fraud and I could press charges. At first, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go that far. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed to protect myself. Jody spent the next few days acting like nothing had happened. She'd cook dinner, try to chat with me about random things, and even brought up wedding plans once. As if I hadn't just called it off. I ignored her, focusing on securing my house and preparing for whatever mess was about to come. She didn't seem to understand that things were over. 2 weeks later, she moved out, taking a few suitcases with her. I thought it was finally done. Then, out of nowhere, mutual friends started messaging me, asking what had happened. Confused, I checked Facebook. Jody had posted a long, dramatic rant about how I had thrown her out, abandoned her, and cared more about money than her or her family. She claimed I was heartless and cruel, painting herself as the victim. I was furious but decided not to respond publicly. I messaged a few close friends privately, explaining the truth and sharing some of the evidence. Most of them believed me instantly. For the wider audience, I posted something short and neutral. Integrity and trust are the foundation of any relationship. When that's gone, there's nothing left to build on. It was enough to make people second-guess her story. A few days later, things escalated. I got an alert from my home security system while I was at work. The cameras showed Jody and her dad trying to break in through the back door. They were carrying bags like they planned to grab whatever they could and leave. I called the police immediately. When they arrived, Jody and her dad were still there, trying to jimmy the lock. They were detained on the spot. I pressed charges for trespassing, making it clear that I wasn't going to let this slide. Jody tried to act shocked, claiming she was just trying to retrieve things she'd left behind. But I knew better. She'd already taken everything during her move out. Not long after that, she pulled her boldest stunt yet. She called me, crying, and claimed she was pregnant with my child. She said she hadn't told me earlier because she was scared but now needed my support since she was all alone. I didn't believe her for a second. I stayed calm and told her that if she was pregnant, I'd step up and support the child. But I'd need a doctor's confirmation and a paternity test. She started stammering, saying she wasn't ready to prove anything yet and that I needed to take her word for it. I told her I wasn't going to play games and hung up. That was the last I heard about her so-called pregnancy. The final blow came a few weeks later. I got a letter from a lawyer representing Jody and her parents. They accused me of causing emotional distress by breaking off the engagement and evicting her. They even claimed I owed Jody compensation for the years she lived in my house, arguing that she contributed to my life. The letter also demanded financial help for her parents, claiming that I'd benefited from their daughter's presence and should repay them for the relationship. I handed the letter to my lawyer, who wrote an airtight response. We laid out everything Jody had done, from the fraudulent sale attempt to the break-in, and made it clear that if they pursued legal action, I'd countersue for damages, legal fees, and defamation. That was the last I heard from them or their lawyer. It's been a few months now, and life is finally settling back to normal. My house feels like mine again, and I've upgraded my security system just in case. I've also reconnected with friends and hobbies I'd let slide during my relationship with Jody. It feels good to have my space and independence back. Looking back, I can't believe how blind I was to all the red flags. Jody and her family didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a solution to their problems. They thought they could manipulate and guilt me into giving them whatever they wanted. I'm just glad I caught on before the wedding. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that trust and respect are everything. Without them, there's no relationship worth saving. And if someone shows you who they are, especially if they show you entitlement, selfishness, or deceit, believe them. Now, I'm moving forward and I'm not looking back. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. So please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.
My fiancée forced my parents out of my house by claiming she was the new owner. So, I ended things. I'm 29. I always cherished the old house where I grew up. Small, a bit worn, but full of memories. I inherited it from my grandparents. My parents lived there comfortably, and I never intended to sell it. Even after I moved out and got engaged, I told my fiancée, Jill, the house wasn't for sale. So when she initially seemed disinterested in my old family home, acting like it was beneath her notice, I actually felt relieved. I should have known better. One Monday afternoon, my father called in a panic. "Son, something strange is happening. A lawyer emailed us an eviction notice on your fiancé's behalf. I nearly dropped my phone. My fiancée. Why would she involve an attorney to evict my parents from my own property? My father forwarded me the documents. They stated my fiancée was the new owner and demanded my parents vacate within 30 days. My name was nowhere on that form. It was as if she'd decided unilaterally that the house belonged to her. Shaken, I tried calling her immediately. She didn't pick up. I texted. No response. Confusion mingled with a rising anger that made my stomach churn. That evening when she finally came home, I confronted her. "What is this about an eviction notice for my parents?" She stared at me, momentarily speechless. Then she recovered, trying to appear casual. "Oh, that? I was going to talk to you about it. My sister needs a place to stay, somewhere big enough for her and her kids. I figured your parents could find an apartment, and we could let my sister move in instead." I felt my hands shake. "Are you kidding? That house is still in my name. You have zero right to evict my parents." She waved her hand dismissively. "We're engaged. We'll be married soon. That means I'll have a say in your properties. Why can't your parents just live somewhere else?" The entitlement took my breath away. She was acting like I'd signed the deed to her, and her calm assumption that my parents' comfort meant nothing to me infuriated me. I demanded she rescind the notice. She shrugged. "Look, I'm just trying to be practical. My sister's house sold unexpectedly. She's in a pinch, and we have an extra property. Your parents can downsize easily." My rage flared. "Downsize? They've been there for decades. You can't toss them aside like old furniture." Her voice turned chilly. "Why are you being so dramatic? I'm your future wife, and I want my family cared for. If your parents can't handle a move, that's their problem." She then admitted she'd already worked something out with a lawyer friend, forging documents to claim partial ownership, banking on the assumption that once married, she'd have rights. She seemed convinced I'd just roll with her scheme. My mind reeled at the betrayal. "So you tried to evict my parents behind my back to house your sister? Without telling me?" She didn't even blink. "Yes, because I knew you'd overreact, and my sister's situation is urgent. Don't blow this out of proportion." I stared at her, stunned that she could be so arrogant. It was my name on that deed, and she was orchestrating an entire eviction process like it was a small favor. Right then, I sensed the enormous rift between us, a glimpse of how controlling she could be. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs with Jill long before the house incident. She had a pattern of treating my finances like her personal ATM. Early in our relationship, she'd surprise me with expensive dinner reservations at high-end restaurants. Then, conveniently forget her wallet. She'd book lavish weekend getaways without consulting me, assuming I'd cover everything. Once, she even gave her cousin $5,000 from my account for a business opportunity, which turned out to be a pyramid scheme. When I confronted her, she dismissed it as helping family. Another time, she maxed out my credit card buying designer bags, claiming she needed them to look professional at her job. The spending was constant, but I kept making excuses for her. But this was the last straw. This was my parents' home, and she'd launched a secret plan to boot them out. Furious, I told her I'd have my attorney look into these so-called documents. Her reaction was a dismissive snort, as if I was being childish. "Go ahead," she said. "You'll see that, once we marry, the house is effectively ours, not just yours." I reminded her we weren't married yet, and that even after a wedding, property law doesn't automatically sign over a pre-owned house to a spouse. She rolled her eyes, probably never expecting me to push back this hard. I spent the next day consulting a lawyer friend. He was aghast at her nerve. He confirmed the house was mine alone, my name on the deed, purchased long before the engagement. He said her so-called eviction papers had no legal basis. They were likely just intimidation, hoping my parents would flee in confusion. Worse yet, she tried forging her ownership claims. The lawyer said this could be considered attempted fraud if she proceeded in court. I immediately told my parents to ignore any eviction notices, to stay put. They were relieved. They'd been anxious and hurt, unable to fathom why my fiancée had turned so hostile. My father kept asking, "Are you sure you want to marry someone who'd do this to us?" I had no reassuring answer. The more I thought about it, the more I realized her sense of entitlement was beyond repair. That evening, I confronted her again. I laid out the facts. "My lawyer says you have no leg to stand on. If you push this, you risk legal trouble." She shrugged, unrepentant. "Why make this a big deal? Just do what's best for my sister. Your parents can find somewhere else. Or, you can rent them an apartment, right?" My jaw clenched. The audacity was staggering. She truly believed my parents were disposable. "No, that's not happening. Why do you care more about your sister's convenience than my parents' well-being?" she retorted. "Because my sister's family is expanding. She needs space. Your parents are just old. They don't need that big place." Her cold words ignited anger in my chest. "That's their home. Age or size is irrelevant. You're crossing a line. I won't let you treat them like obstacles." She scoffed. "Fine. Let's see if you feel the same after we're married." She clearly assumed I'd ultimately fold. I glared at her, realizing all at once this wasn't just a spat. This was a fundamental clash of values. She'd do anything to serve her own family's interest, even if it meant displacing mine. Disgust roiled in my gut. "Maybe we shouldn't be getting married at all," I muttered. She froze. "What did you say?" I met her gaze, heart pounding. "I'm calling off the engagement." Her eyes widened in shock, and then fury. "You wouldn't dare. You'll lose me." She tried flipping the script, painting herself as a victim. "I can't believe you'd abandon me over a misunderstanding," she wailed. "I'm just trying to help my sister. Doesn't that show my big heart? A big heart." I almost laughed at the twisted logic. Evicting my parents in secret did not help. I told her so, voiced trembling with anger. "A big heart? More like a big ego. You think you can just reorder my life to suit your sister's needs?" Realizing I was dead serious, she switched tactics, pleading with me. "We don't have to go through with the eviction. Let's just talk this out." But the damage was done. I saw how she was willing to lie, manipulate, and steamroll my parents to get what she wanted. That was a massive betrayal. "Talk it out?" I repeated. "After you tried to remove my parents from their home behind my back?" She tried tears. "I made a mistake. I thought you'd understand once I explained." My jaw set. "A mistake is forgetting to lock the door, not forging legal documents to evict family." Her tears turned to frustration. "Fine, be stubborn. You'll regret losing me over some worthless old house." My blood boiled. Worthless? That house is my childhood home, and it's where my parents still live. They built their life there. You think it's worthless? Then we're definitely done. After a tense pause, I repeated firmly, "The engagement is off. I'm calling my parents, telling them everything is safe, and you're out of the picture." She choked back a sob, then stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door. I grabbed my keys, stepping outside into the cool night air to clear my head. My phone buzzed repeatedly, her texts flipping between apologies and insults. She threatened to smear me to her family, to claim I led her on financially. I was done being intimidated. The next day, I packed her belongings from my place into boxes. When she returned, I pointed to them near the door. "Take these. Leave my keys." She glowered, tears streaking her face, but complied. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I'll make sure your name is mud in my sister's circle." I shrugged. "Do what you want. The truth is on my side." She tried one last time to coax me, claiming she'd call off the eviction, but trust was shattered. I told her to keep her false apology. Meanwhile, I texted my father all the details, reassuring him I had no part in that eviction nonsense. He thanked me, relieved to hear I'd parted ways with her. My mother's quiet sadness turned to relief once she realized we'd be free of my fiancé's manipulative presence. As expected, she launched some dirty tricks. She tried telling mutual acquaintances that I'd promised her the house as a wedding gift, painting me as a liar who reneged. Yet, whenever people pressed for evidence, she had none. They realized it was just an entitled fantasy. Some folks believed her at first, but as soon as they heard my side, they recognized who the real manipulator was. Weeks passed. She sulked around, calling and texting me sporadically. Each time, she tried a new angle. Pity, anger, guilt. She said her sister was desperate for a new place, that I'd ruined her family's plans. My reply stayed the same. You took it upon yourself to cheat my parents out of their home. That's on you. She never really apologized sincerely, only lamented that I wouldn't cooperate. Eventually, I blocked her number. She showed up once at my job, cornering me in the parking lot. I told her calmly to leave, or I'd call security. She spat, "You're an idiot for losing me," before stomping off. If that was her best attempt at reconciliation, it just confirmed I'd made the right call. My parents, of course, were grateful I'd uncovered the scheme in time. No real legal harm was done, since the eviction notice was bogus. The lawyer my ex hired for the fiasco quietly backed off after learning the truth. My mother shook her head in disbelief. To think she wanted to be part of our family while booting us out. My father just said, "Son, better to find out now than after the wedding." Indeed, their perspective grounded me. I dodged a bullet. Some relatives of hers tried contacting me, saying I overreacted, that I could have talked it out. But how do you talk out a betrayal so big? She literally lied about owning property she had no stake in, forging her way into an eviction process. That's not a small spat. That's a breach of trust. I told them I was done explaining. Eventually, I heard she moved in with her sister's family. Ironically, they probably had to figure out a new living arrangement. Good luck to them. People started telling me she was telling sob stories about being thrown away, but I let them talk. My friends and family, plus the evidence of her bogus papers, spoke for itself. In the end, I stood by my decision. Any doubt I had melted away the day I discovered she forged a path to forcibly evict my parents. She tried entitlements and dirty tricks, but I refused to budge. The revenge, if you can call it that, was simply removing her from my life. I cut her off, watched her scramble as her plan collapsed. She faced the consequences of her own arrogance. Now, I'm moving forward without a fiancé, but with my dignity and family safe. My parents remain in the old house, as they should, unafraid of sham eviction notices. And me? I'm more cautious about who I let into my life. The heartbreak stings, but the relief of escaping that manipulative mess outweighs it. My fiancé called me a rich simp and bragged about draining my money. So, I ended engagement in front of her family. I am 30, picking up the pieces of what I thought was a perfect relationship. Looking back, maybe I should have seen the signs, but love has a way of blinding you to the obvious. I met Lisa through a mutual friend at a holiday party. She had this magnetic confidence about her that drew me in immediately. She was charming, quick-witted, and seemed genuinely interested in everything I had to say. Within weeks, we were dating seriously. From the beginning, I knew she had expensive taste. Designer handbags, luxury spa weekends, fine dining, the works. But I had a good job in finance. And honestly, I loved being able to treat her. When my friends would joke about how much I spoiled her, I'd laugh it off. I just like making her happy, I'd say. Man, was I naive. We got engaged 3 months ago. The proposal was exactly what she wanted. Rose petals, champagne, oceanfront restaurant, the whole 9 yards. She cried when I got down on one knee, posted about it all over Instagram, called everyone she knew. I thought her excitement was about our future together. Turns out, I couldn't have been more wrong. Last Tuesday changed everything. I was walking past our bedroom when I heard Lisa on a video call with her friends. The door was cracked open, and I probably should have kept walking, but I heard my name and curiosity got the better of me. "Oh my God, you guys," Lisa was saying, laughing. "Mike is such a rich simp. It's actually hilarious. He'll literally pay for anything without questioning it." My blood ran cold. I stood there, frozen, as she continued. I've got it made. He's loaded, and he's so desperate to please me that I can get whatever I want. Once we're married, it'll be even easier. I'm basically set for life. Her friends were giggling along with her. One asked, but what if he starts complaining about the spending? Lisa snorted. Please. All I have to do is threaten to call off the wedding, and he'll be begging me to stay. He's totally wrapped around my finger. She paused, then added, besides, if he ever runs out of money, there are plenty of other wealthy guys out there. You just have to know how to play them. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and started recording. My dad always taught me to get evidence before confronting someone. Turns out, that was solid advice. After capturing about a minute of her cruel bragging, I quietly retreated to the living room, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. For the next week, I played it cool. I watched her flip through $200 per plate catering menus and research 5-star honeymoon resorts like nothing had changed. Every time she'd wink at me and say something like, "Baby, wouldn't this venue be perfect?" my stomach would turn, but I kept my poker face. I even went along with her shopping sprees, watching her load up on designer clothes for our engagement photos. The whole time, I was secretly filling out buy now, pay later forms on eBay in her name. Petty? Maybe? Satisfying? Definitely. The breaking point came when she started pushing for an even more expensive wedding venue. I realized if she was this entitled now, marriage would only make it worse. That's when I decided to end it. But not quietly. I invited her parents and our closest friends over for dinner, supposedly to discuss wedding plans. Lisa was in her element, chattering about flower arrangements and premium open bars. After dinner, I gathered everyone in the living room. I have an announcement to make, I said, my heart pounding but my voice steady. Lisa beamed. Ooh, did you book that resort I showed you? Not exactly. I pulled out my phone. I want everyone to hear something I recorded last week. The color drained from Lisa's face as her own voice filled the room, calling me a rich simp and bragging about using me for my money. Her father's expression darkened with each word. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth in horror. When the recording ended, Lisa lunged for my phone. That's private, she shrieked. I moved it away from her grasp. Private? You mean like how you privately mocked me to your friends? How did you privately plan to drain my bank account? It's not what it sounds like, she sputtered. I was just joking around. Her father stood up, his face ashen. Lisa, tell me this isn't real. Tell me you didn't actually say these things about Mike. Daddy, he's twisting everything. I was just venting to my friends, I cut in. Venting? You were bragging about using me as your personal ATM. You literally said you'd leave me if I ran out of money. Her mother started crying. We didn't raise you to be like this, Lisa. How could you be so cruel? Lisa's tactics shifted instantly. The tears started flowing. Mike, baby, please. You know I love you. Don't throw away our future over one stupid conversation. Love me? I laughed without humor. You called me a simp. You mocked me to your friends. You literally planned how to manipulate me if I ever complained about money. That's not love. That's exploitation. Her father turned to me, looking devastated. Mike, I am so sorry. We never would have supported this engagement if we'd known. Dad, Lisa screamed. You're taking his side? I'm your daughter. And right now, I'm ashamed of my daughter. He shot back. This is not how we raised you to treat people. Lisa made one last desperate attempt. Fine. Cancel everything. Do you know how much money you'll lose on deposits? All the arrangements we've made? I shrugged. Better to lose some deposits than spend my life with someone who sees me as nothing but a wallet. She grabbed the engagement ring off her finger and slammed it onto the coffee table. Take your stupid ring back then. I pocketed it calmly. Oh, and Lisa? All those clothes you just bought? The ones you put on eBay's pay later plan. They're in your name. Enjoy dealing with that. Her face went from red to white. You wouldn't? I already did. I grabbed my pre-packed bag from the closet and headed for the door. Her father tried to stop me. Wait. Can we talk about this privately? Maybe later, I said. Right now, I need some space. As I walked out, Lisa was alternating between sobbing and screaming threats about how I'd regret this. My dad was waiting in his car outside. I'd told him I might need backup tonight. He gave me a solemn nod as I got in my car. You did the right thing, son. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. Lisa called and texted constantly, switching between tearful apologies and angry accusations. She showed up at my workplace once, causing such a scene that security had to escort her out. She tried to spread rumors that I was controlling, and had pushed her to say those things, but quickly stopped when I threatened to release the full recording. Her father reached out to apologize again, saying they had no idea she'd become this person. I actually felt bad for him. He seemed genuinely blindsided by his daughter's behavior. Some of our mutual friends took sides. Most supported me once they heard the recording, though a few of her more entitled friends accused me of violating her privacy. I blocked them all and focused on healing. It's been 3 months now. I won't lie. Some days are harder than others. But mostly, I feel lighter, free. My dad says I seem more relaxed. And he's right. Sure, I lost some money on wedding deposits, but I saved myself from a lifetime of manipulation and financial abuse. And Lisa? Last I heard, she's still dealing with those eBay payments. Karma's funny like that. Sometimes people ask if I regret exposing Lisa the way I did. I don't. She chose to brag publicly about using me. I just made sure everyone knew who she really was. Her words revealed her character. I just pressed play. These days, I'm focusing on myself. I'm back into my old hobbies, spending time with real friends, and enjoying the peace of my drama-free life. The next time I fall in love, it'll be with someone who values me for who I am, not what I can buy them. The whole experience taught me a lot about myself and relationships. Looking back, there were red flags I chose to ignore from the very beginning, like how Lisa would joke about marrying rich when we first started dating, or how she'd compare herself to her friends' wives and girlfriends, always focusing on what they had, the cars, the jewelry, the vacations. Jenny's husband just bought her another Gucci bag. She'd say, casually over dinner, "They really know how to live, you know?" I'd try to redirect the conversation, but she'd push harder. Don't you want people to see how successful you are? To show them you can provide the best for your wife? When I suggested we start saving for a house, instead of spending so much on luxuries, she'd get quiet and distant. I didn't think you were the type to be stingy, she'd say, her voice dripping with disappointment. My ex never questioned my spending. That manipulation was so subtle at first. She knew exactly how to make me feel inadequate, like I wasn't measuring up to some invisible standard. And like an idiot, I'd try harder to prove myself worthy. The truth was simpler and uglier. She was a gold digger who'd nearly trapped me in a marriage based on lies. These days I'm rediscovering who I am without someone constantly pushing me to spend more, be more, prove more. I'm cooking at home instead of hitting expensive restaurants, taking local camping trips instead of luxury getaways. And you know what? I'm happier. My dad came over last weekend to help me repaint my apartment, something Lisa had always insisted we hire professionals for. As we worked, he shared some wisdom that hit home. You know, son, he said, carefully cutting in along the ceiling, sometimes the most expensive things in life aren't the ones with price tags. They're the compromises you make that cost you your self-respect. He was right. I'd compromised my values, my financial security, and my self-worth trying to keep Lisa happy. The price was too high. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with a financial advisor to start planning for my future. My real future, not some Instagram-worthy fantasy. I'm thinking about starting my own business, maybe buying a small property to rent out. Things Lisa would have scoffed at as thinking too small. But that's the thing about finally seeing clearly. You realize that the right path for you might not be the one that looks most impressive to others. Success isn't about designer labels or luxury vacations. It's about building a life that aligns with your values. So, yeah, I lost a fiancé and some money, but I gained something more valuable: the courage to be authentic and the wisdom to spot red flags before they become relationship-ending disasters. As for Lisa, I heard through mutual friends that she's already dating some rich tech guy, posting photos of expensive gifts and exotic vacations. Part of me wants to warn him, but I know he wouldn't listen. Some lessons you have to learn the hard way. I just hope that when he inevitably finds her on a video call, bragging to her friends about her latest conquest, he has the strength to walk away too. Because at the end of the day, that's what this whole experience taught me. Walking away from someone who doesn't truly value you isn't failure. It's self-respect. And that's something no amount of money can buy.
My fiancée used me for her career, left after promotion, now wants a second chance after getting fired. I supported my fiancée through her career, only for her to leave me once she got a promotion. Now, 6 months later, she's asking me to take her back after she got fired. I'm 32 male, and I've learned a lot about life the hard way. For 7 years, I was with my fiancée. 7 long years where I thought I was building a future, only to realize I'd been building a bridge for her to walk right over me. I never saw it coming, not the way it all unraveled. And looking back now, maybe I was stupid, too trusting, too willing to believe that people will appreciate what you do for them. Spoiler, they don't. She was ambitious. God, was she ambitious. From the day I met her, she had a fire in her eyes, and I admired that. At first, it was attractive, seeing someone so determined to get ahead in their career. She worked in marketing, and when we started dating, she was just getting her foot in the door at some mid-level firm. I was already doing all right, working in finance, earning enough to support both of us while she built her career, and I was happy to do it. I loved her, or at least I thought I did, and I wanted to see her succeed. The thing is, it didn't take long for that ambition to start feeling less like a shared dream and more like a competition. I was busting my ass at work, coming home late, paying most of the bills while she was working on herself. She'd pick up freelance gigs here and there, and I'd help with that too, proofreading her presentations, brainstorming ideas, even doing some of her research. And it was fine at first because I thought we were a team, but then slowly I started to notice how it was all about her. Everything was about her career, her goals. When I had a rough day, it was, "Babe, I'm too stressed to talk about that right now, or we'll talk later. I'm working on this project," but I swallowed it. Every single time. Because I thought that's what you do when you love someone, right? You put them first. You make sacrifices. I figured once she got where she wanted to be, things would settle down. She'd realize how much I had done for her, and we'd finally start building the life we talked about: marriage, maybe kids, a house somewhere outside the city. But none of that happened. Instead, the moment she got that big promotion, her first executive-level job, she changed. Overnight. Like flipping a switch. One minute we were planning a future, and the next she was talking about reevaluating our relationship and needing space to figure out what she really wanted. I couldn't believe it. After everything, after all the years of support, she just threw it away. Threw me away. Like I was some disposable stepping stone she'd outgrown. She didn't even have the decency to sit me down for a real conversation. It was all vague bullshit about needing to find herself and wanting to focus on her career. Meanwhile, I was the idiot standing there blindsided asking, "But what about us? What about everything we've built?" She looked at me with this expression that I'll never forget, like I was the one being unreasonable. "I can't make this about us right now," she said, like she wasn't just ripping my heart out, like I was the one asking for too much. The kicker? She didn't even ask me to move out. I had to offer to leave because she needed time to figure things out. And stupidly I did. I packed my bags and left the apartment I'd been paying for because I thought maybe if I gave her space, she'd come around. Maybe she'd realize what she was losing. That was 6 months ago. For the first few weeks, I barely heard from her. A few text messages here and there, vague updates about how work was crazy and she needed to focus. Meanwhile, I was crashing on my buddy's couch, trying to pick up the pieces. I didn't want to believe it was over. Part of me kept thinking, this can't be it. Not after all the time, the years I invested. Surely she'd come to her senses. But she didn't. A month after I left, I found out from a mutual friend that she'd been seeing someone else, some hotshot from her office. Apparently, they'd been going out for weeks, maybe even before she told me she needed space. That's when it finally hit me. She wasn't confused. She wasn't figuring out her life. She'd already moved on. And that was it. No apology, no real closure. Just a text one day saying, I think we should both move on. Like it was some mutual decision. Like she hadn't already moved on the minute her career took off. I was devastated. I mean, how do you come back from that? How do you spend years of your life helping someone only for them to cut you loose the moment they don't need you anymore? It felt like everything I thought I knew about her, about us, had been a lie. But life goes on, right? So I started picking up the pieces, trying to rebuild. I threw myself into work, hit the gym, reconnected with friends. It wasn't easy, but slowly I started to feel like myself again. And I told myself I was done with her for good. Then 6 months later, she showed up. I was in my apartment, finally in a decent place mentally when my phone buzzed. It was her. The first message I'd gotten in months. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity. Part of me wanted to delete the message and move on. But the other part, the part that had spent 7 years loving her, needed to know why. Why was she reaching out now? So, I agreed to meet her. We met at this little cafe near my place. The moment I walked in, I could tell something was off. She looked different. Not in a good way. There was this desperate energy about her, like she was barely holding it together. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't reach her eyes. Hey, she said, like we were old friends catching up, like she hadn't shattered my life 6 months ago. Hey, I said, keeping my tone flat. I wasn't here to play nice. She fidgeted with her cup, not meeting my gaze. Finally, after a long, awkward silence, she looked up. Hi, I've been thinking a lot about us. About what happened. I just stared at her, waiting for her to continue. She took a deep breath. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. That caught me off guard. I didn't expect her to admit it, at least not so easily. But I wasn't ready to let her off the hook. You mean dumping me as soon as you got promoted? I asked, my voice cold. She winced. I know how it looks, but things were so crazy back then. I was under so much pressure, and I didn't handle it well. I thought I needed space to focus on my career, but you didn't need space to hook up with some guy from your office? She looked down, her face flushing. That was a mistake, too. It didn't mean anything. I was confused, and I cut her off. Confused? You were fucking someone else behind my back while I was sleeping on a couch, hoping you'd come around. That wasn't confusion. That was you moving on. She bit her lip, tears welling up in her eyes. But I wasn't about to feel sorry for her. Not after everything. I got fired. She blurted out suddenly. That took me by surprise. I hadn't heard anything about her losing her job. She'd always been the golden child at her company, the one who could do no wrong. What happened? I asked, not because I cared, but because I was curious. There were some issues. Politics, really. They brought in a new executive, and things got messy. Long story short, I'm out. I'm a mess right now. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. I need you. I need us. I let that hang in the air for a moment, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. So that was it. She didn't miss me. She missed the safety net I'd always provided. Now that her career had tanked, she was coming back, hoping I'd catch her when she fell. Are you serious right now? I asked, leaning forward. You ghosted me for 6 months, left me to pick up the pieces of our relationship while you fucked some other guy. And now, because you lost your job, you want me to take you back? She blinked, her face crumbling. It's not like that, I swear. I realize how much I took you for granted. I was so focused on my career, I lost sight of what really mattered. Which is what? Exactly? Me? Or the fact that you don't have anyone else left to pick up the pieces? She started crying, full-on sobbing into her hands. A year ago, that would have broken me. I would have felt guilty, like I had to fix things, had to make her feel better. But not anymore. I can't do this, I said, standing up. Please. She choked out through her tears, reaching out to grab my hand as I stood. I need you. I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can go back to how it was. I pulled my hand away, feeling a mixture of disbelief and anger bubbling up inside me. Back to how it was? You mean back to me busting my ass while you do whatever the hell you want? Back to me being your emotional punching bag when things get tough. She shook her head frantically, wiping away tears. No, no. I know I was wrong. I was under so much pressure, and I pushed you away. But I'm different now. I know what's important. You're different. I couldn't help the sarcastic chuckle that escaped. You're only here because you've hit rock bottom, and I'm your safety net. Don't stand there and act like this is about love or some epiphany you've had. You're here because you don't have a job, you're alone, and you think I'll just take you back because I used to love you. Her face twisted, and for a moment, the tears stopped. There it was, the entitlement, the expectation that I'd still be waiting for her, ready to catch her whenever she fell. That's not fair, she snapped, her voice sharp now. I know I made mistakes, but we were together for 7 years. Doesn't that count for something? Don't I get a chance to make things right? You had that chance, I said, my voice low but firm. You had that chance the day I walked out of our apartment, and you didn't even look back. You moved on the second you thought you didn't need me anymore. And now, because life didn't go your way, you want me to clean up the mess. She opened her mouth to argue, but I wasn't done. You used me. You used me to get ahead. And when you didn't need me anymore, you threw me away. I wasn't your partner. I was a convenience. And now that your golden boy's gone, and you've lost a job, you come crawling back, expecting me to take you in? Are you hearing yourself right now? Her eyes narrowed, the vulnerability fading from her expression, replaced by something colder. So that's it? After everything we've been through, you're just going to walk away? You can't even give me a chance to explain. I leaned in, my voice tight with anger. Explain what? That you used me as a stepping stone. That when you finally got what you wanted, I became disposable. You think I'm that stupid? She flinched, and for a second, I thought I saw something else flicker in her eyes. Guilt? Shame? Maybe. But it didn't matter. I'd seen enough. I'd given enough. Please, she said again, her voice softer now, like she was trying a different tactic. I know I hurt you. I know I've made mistakes, but I want to fix it. I want to make things right. Right for who? I asked, not buying it. You or me? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she just looked at me, her eyes searching my face like she was trying to figure out what would get me to change my mind. But there was nothing left for her to find. I think you should go, I said, my voice calm now. There's nothing here for you anymore. She blinked, stunned, as if she couldn't believe I was really ending it. Just like that. Just like that, I repeated. I'm done. I've moved on. For a moment, she just stood there, her lips pressed together, her chest rising and falling as she tried to steady her breath. Then she grabbed her bag and stood up, her face twisting in anger again. You'll regret this, she hissed, her eyes flashing. You think you're so much better than me? You think I'm the only one who made mistakes? You're not perfect either. You're just too much of a coward to admit it. I stared at her unmoved. Maybe, but at least I'm not trying to manipulate someone into taking me back because I'm scared of being alone. That hit a nerve. Her face flushed red, and for a second, I thought she might slap me. But she didn't. Instead, she gave me one last glare before turning on her heel and storming out of the cafe, the door slamming shut behind her. I stood there for a moment, letting the weight of everything settle in. I should have felt some kind of satisfaction, some kind of closure. But all I felt was tired, drained, like I had finally closed a chapter that should have ended a long time ago. I paid for my coffee and walked out, the cold air hitting my face as I stepped onto the sidewalk. It was strange, really, how quiet everything felt after such an intense confrontation. I walked back to my apartment in silence, my mind oddly blank. I thought about everything that had happened in the last year. The promotion, the breakup, the months of self-doubt and anger. I thought about how much I had given, how much I had sacrificed for someone who, in the end, only cared about herself. And yet, as much as I wanted to feel angry, I couldn't. Not anymore. I was done being angry, done being hurt. I had already spent too much energy on someone who didn't deserve it. By the time I got home, I felt lighter. It wasn't some dramatic revelation or epiphany, just a quiet realization that I didn't need her anymore. I didn't need her validation, her apologies, or her guilt. I didn't need anything from her. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. It's been a few weeks since that day, and I haven't heard from her since. I don't know what she's doing, and honestly, I don't care. I'm focused on my life now, on my career, my friends, and my own happiness. Funny thing is, looking back, I don't even recognize the guy I was when I was with her. The guy who bent over backward to support someone who couldn't even give me the time of day when I needed it. The guy who thought love meant sacrificing yourself for someone else's success. I realized something important since then. Love isn't about being someone's safety net. It's about partnership, respect, and mutual support. And if you don't have that, you don't have anything. So no, I don't regret my decision. I don't regret walking away. If anything, I regret not doing it sooner. As for her, I hope she figures her life out. I really do. But that's not my problem anymore, and it never will be again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. So please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.
My fiancée demanded I send my kids to boarding school for her brother, so I packed her things and kicked her out. I'm a 38-year-old father of two amazing kids, aged 10 and 12, and this is the story of how I almost made the biggest mistake of my life, and how I managed to avoid it just in time. Since losing their mother a few years ago, it's been just the three of us. The early days were the hardest, but gradually we developed our own rhythm, our own way of making things work. My son learned to help with laundry, my daughter became our family's breakfast specialist with her perfect scrambled eggs, and I mastered the art of being both mom and dad. Then Donna walked into my life at a friend's gathering about a year and a half ago. She was everything I wasn't: spontaneous, outgoing, always ready with a quick laugh or witty comment. After years of focusing solely on my kids, I felt that spark of connection again. She seemed to understand the package deal, me and my children, and I thought I'd found someone who could complement our family unit. The early days were promising, filled with those magical moments that make you believe in second chances. Donna would take the kids for ice cream after school, suggesting fun outings to the park or local festivals. She'd bring small gifts, a comic book for my son, craft supplies for my daughter. Looking back, I should have noticed these gestures were more about impression management than genuine connection. The gifts often sat unused, and the outings became less frequent as time went on. My children were unfailingly polite around her, but reserved. They'd exchange glances when she wasn't looking, or become unusually quiet when she joined our dinner table. I attributed their behavior to natural caution after losing their mother, a protective instinct to guard their hearts. Now I realize they might have sensed something I was too love-blind to see. When I proposed a few months ago, everything seemed perfect on the surface. Donna said yes with enthusiasm, diving into wedding planning with gusto. Our evenings became filled with discussions about venues, flower arrangements, and guest lists. She'd spend hours flipping through bridal magazines, creating Pinterest boards, and dreaming about our future together. I was caught up in it too, imagining how complete our family would finally be. But as the wedding plans progressed, subtle warning signs began to emerge. It started with small comments about our home, how cluttered it felt, how the kids' toys in the living room were unsightly, how their art projects on the fridge made the kitchen look messy. She began suggesting changes that seemed innocent enough at first, repainting the walls to brighten things up, rearranging furniture to create more space, storing away what she called excess items, many of which were my children's belongings. I dismissed these red flags, rationalizing them as natural adjustments when combining households. After all, compromise is part of any relationship, right? But the suggestions became more frequent and more insistent. She'd move things without asking, reorganize closets while I was at work, make pointed comments about how some people might find our home too child-centered. Then came the bombshell about her brother, Robert. It started as a casual mention over dinner, how he was going through a rough patch, lost his job, had some personal issues. I expressed sympathy, as anyone would. But then Donna began weaving him into our future plans. "You know," she'd say, "Robert really needs a fresh start. Wouldn't it be nice if we could help him out after the wedding?" Initially, she framed it as a temporary arrangement. I was willing to discuss it, wanting to understand the details. How long would he stay? What were his plans for getting back on his feet? How would we manage space and privacy? But Donna would deflect these practical questions with vague reassurances. "We'll figure it out," she'd say, or "family helps family." The situation reached its first critical point last weekend. Donna sat me down, her expression not of love or partnership, but of entitled impatience. She declared we needed to discuss the kids' situation, a phrase that made my stomach turn. Her true colors emerged as she laid out her shocking ultimatum. My children needed to be sent to boarding school to make room for her brother. The sheer audacity of her demand left me speechless. These weren't just rooms we were talking about. They were my children's safe spaces, filled with their personalities, their memories, their sense of security. But Donna spoke about displacing them as casually as if she were discussing rearranging furniture. Her justification was a masterclass in manipulation. Think about it, she insisted. Boarding school would give them a better education. They'd make new friends, have new experiences, and we could start our new life with Robert under our roof. Isn't that what you want? Don't you want what's best for everyone? I tried reasoning with her, explaining how traumatic such a change would be for children who'd already lost their mother. I pointed out their strong academic performance at their current schools, their established friendships, their emotional need for stability. But Donna dismissed every concern with a wave of her hand, as if my children's well-being was an inconvenient obstacle to her plans. The situation reached its breaking point when I came home from work one day to find my kids' rooms in complete disarray. Without my knowledge or permission, Donna had taken it upon herself to start renovating. She'd moved furniture, taken down posters and photos, and boxed up personal items. My daughter's art supplies were packed away in cardboard boxes labeled storage, and my son's sports equipment was piled in the garage. My blood boiled at the sight of my children's spaces violated like this. But what I discovered while cleaning up the mess she'd made turned my anger into cold fury. Mixed in with her renovation plans were property documents she'd been researching, information about adding names to house deeds after marriage, legal rights of spouses to shared property, even notes about local rental market values. That's when everything clicked into place. This wasn't just about her brother needing a place to stay. This was a calculated plan to take over our home. The boarding school suggestion wasn't about education. It was about removing my children so she could reshape our home according to her vision. The brother was just an excuse, a way to begin the process of pushing my kids out. The next conversation we had was the last. When I confronted her about the unauthorized changes and the property documents, her mask slipped completely. "Once we're married, this house will be ours to do with as we please," she declared, not even trying to hide her true intentions anymore. "Your kids have had it long enough. It's time for changes. If you can't see that, maybe we shouldn't get married at all." I didn't hesitate. "You're right," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "We shouldn't." I canceled the wedding right there and then, packed up her things along with what she'd already moved in for her brother, and told them both to leave. I spent that night putting my kids' rooms back together, hanging up their posters, unpacking their belongings, trying to restore their sense of security that Donna had so callously disrupted. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. Donna launched a full-scale campaign to paint herself as the victim, telling anyone who would listen how unreasonable and cruel I was being. Her family bombarded me with messages about how I was leaving her brother homeless, how I'd humiliated them all, how I was destroying Donna's dreams of a perfect wedding. They even tried to guilt me about wedding expenses, demanding I reimburse all the deposits since I was the one who canceled. Through my attorney friend's advice, I agreed to split the non-refundable deposits proportionally to our contributions, though Donna fought this tooth and nail. She wanted me to cover everything, claiming I was at fault for the cancellation. I stood firm. She gave me an ultimatum between my kids and her, and I simply chose my kids. My children, though they'd picked up on the tension, showed visible relief when I told them the wedding was off. My older child's question, "Does that mean we're not moving away?" And their happy smiles when I assured them they were staying put confirmed I'd made the right decision. They helped me restore their rooms, and we spent the weekend reinforcing our family bonds with their favorite activities and comfort foods. The final confrontation came when Donna showed up unannounced to collect her remaining belongings. As she gathered her things, she couldn't resist one last attempt at manipulation. "You really threw away our future just because you couldn't compromise about the kids," she accused, her voice dripping with bitterness. I looked at her, seeing clearly now what I'd been blind to before. "They're not just the kids, they're my children," I responded. "And what you wanted wasn't a compromise, it was an eviction. You tried to force my children out of their home so you could move your brother in and take over. I found the property documents, Donna. I know what you were really planning." Her face changed then, the mask of injured innocence dropping completely. "This house is too big for just 3 people, she snapped. "It's wasteful. Robert needs it more than your kids do. They could have adjusted to boarding school. Plenty of children do." "But my children shouldn't have to," I replied firmly. This is their home and it will stay their home. You showed me exactly who you are, someone who would displace 2 children for your own gain. That's not how family works. Her tears and accusations of betrayal didn't move me anymore. I'd seen the property documents. I'd witnessed her casual cruelty toward my children, and I understood her true motives. When she left for the final time, cursing under her breath, I felt nothing but relief. The weeks that followed were busy with cancellation notices to guests and dealing with the fallout from both sides of the family. Some understood immediately, others tried to mediate, and a few bought into Donna's version of events. I kept my explanation simple and dignified. We had irreconcilable differences about living arrangements and my children's well-being. Donna's family continued their campaign of guilt and manipulation, sending messages about how their brother was struggling to find housing, how Donna was devastated, how I'd ruined everything. I blocked most of them after a particularly nasty message suggesting my late wife would be ashamed of me for not helping family in need. That was the final straw. Using my children's deceased mother as emotional leverage was beyond despicable. Looking back now, I'm grateful for those red flags I initially ignored. They ultimately saved us from what could have been a devastating situation. My children are still here in their home, surrounded by their memories and security. The financial hit from canceled deposits stings, but it's a small price to pay for protecting what matters most. I may have lost a fiancé, but I protected my family. My children will grow up knowing their father put them first, and that's worth more than any wedding could ever be. Our home remains our sanctuary, and no one will ever again threaten to take that away from us. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from something that looks perfect on the surface, but threatens what matters most. I canceled a wedding, but I saved my family, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. The experience has changed how I approach relationships now. I'm more cautious, more observant of how potential partners interact with my children. I watch for the small signs I missed with Donna, the subtle dismissals, the little attempts to minimize my children's presence in their own home. But most importantly, it's reinforced what I've known all along. My children and their well-being come first. No relationship, no matter how promising, is worth compromising their security and happiness. We're a package deal, and our home is our foundation. Anyone who wants to be part of our lives needs to understand and respect that. As for Donna and her brother, I heard through mutual friends that they eventually found an apartment together. Sometimes I wonder if that was their plan all along, to use marriage as a way to secure a free living situation. Either way, I'm just grateful I discovered their true intentions before it was too late. My kids and I are stronger now, more united than ever. We've learned that home isn't just about the physical space. It's about the love, trust, and security we build together, and that's something worth protecting at all costs.